looking at a series of letters on the subject of marriage and relationships that people wrote, troubled people wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the responses that he gave them. And today's letter is written to a woman in Worcester, Massachusetts, and he says to her, following up on your previous correspondence, I'm writing these lines to express the hope that the relationship between you and your husband has improved considerably, making your home fit for the divine presence. As our sages have stated, that where a husband and wife are meritorious, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, dwells there in their home. He says, in particular, since you have been given the opportunity to bring up Jewish children, God says of all of us, you are children unto God, the Lord your God, and therefore God has entrusted to you his children and blessed you with the opportunity to implant in their hearts, to bring them up with a love of God and a sense of his greatness. And in the light of this, you should regard it as a special blessing to being able to find a worthy mate, a mate worthy of God's blessings, to be able to work with you in this great task. And then he goes on to say the following. Even so, the first point over here is when you're given the opportunity to bring up kids, it is a very special opportunity. He goes on to say something which applies even if one doesn't have children. Even if it may appear that the other party falls short of perfection, and even if such a lack is not wholly imaginary, he puts it very delicately and politely over here. It's not wholly imaginary. In other words, the other person is indeed imperfect. That's the reality of it. It should be remembered that true perfection actually only belongs to God. Indeed, the very fact that we've all been commanded to go from strength to strength in all matters of goodness and holiness means that we have no perfection. Otherwise, why would we be told to improve and to go from strength to strength? For obviously the previous level is imperfect by comparison with the next and the higher level. And moreover, perfection itself, insofar as humans are concerned, is relative, in that it is to be found in different areas and in different people. It's in the light of this, I don't need to elaborate to you, I just want to emphasize that the greater the harmony, the mutual respect, and the devotion of a husband and wife, the greater is the measure of God's blessings for both of them in their needs. And this includes all of our needs, in particular the need to be blessed with healthy offspring of your own, to bring them up and to become fine human beings, and a life of Torah and a chuppah and all other good things, and the fulfillment of your heart's desires for good. The main point of this letter over here is that sometimes in our relationships, things go wrong because we have an expectation of perfection in the person to whom we're married. And that is an unrealistic expectation. It applies at two levels. It applies to those of us who are already married, when we discover that what we thought was the most perfect spouse turns out to have some imperfections. Of course, you see the imperfections in your spouse, you never see imperfections in oneself, but it also applies before marriage in terms of the choice of who you get married to, because you're always looking for the perfect person, and to one's great disappointment, you don't always find perfection. Everybody's got something which doesn't seem to be quite right. Says the Rebbe, be realistic. Be realistic about human beings are. It doesn't work that way. We have, all of us, imperfections, and the imperfections in the people to whom we're married. That's one of the things that we need to be able to overcome in order to be able to form a good relationship. We'll come back to some more of this shortly in our second session. Well, good morning to you all, and good morning.